You're listening to an iHeart podcast.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card.
Apply for Apple Card today and start earning up to 3% daily cash back on everyday purchases.
And that daily cash can even grow automatically when you open a high-yield savings account through Apple Card.
What are you waiting for? Visit apple.co/card calculator today to see how much daily cash you can earn.
Subject to credit approval, savings available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings in Apple Card by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms and more at applecard.com.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
Run a business and not thinking about podcasting? Think again. More Americans listen to podcasts than ad-supported streaming music from Spotify and Pandora. And as the #1 podcaster, iHeart's twice as large as the next two combined. Learn how podcasting can help your business. Call 844-844-iHeart.
In a world of economic uncertainty and workplace transformation, learn to lead by example from visionary C-suite executives like Shannon Schuyler of PwC and Will Pearson of iHeartMedia.
The good teacher explains, the great teacher inspires.
Don't always leave your team to do the work. That's been the most important part of how to lead by example.
Listen to Leading by Example, Executives Making an Impact on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Going plant-based on a budget with Toni Okamoto.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are replaying a listener favorite from several years ago about going plant-based because it is such a great way to save money on groceries, because meat is the most expensive thing in most of our grocery carts.
It might not be the only reason that you want to go plant-based. Maybe you already are and you're looking for more ways to think critically about how you spend money. Maybe you are wanting to make a couple of meatless days a part of your meal plan. You just need a diet change. We know that can be one of the biggest barriers. People recognize, sure, there's plenty of ways to reduce my grocery bill, but what about when I have a special diet? And so this is one of those episodes where we turn to an expert. So it is a replay of an old favorite, but we think it's a good one. So we're excited to share it with you. But first, this episode is brought to you by saving money. It's what we're all interested in. It's what we Google. It's the reason we give for not doing something or shutting off the lights or eating beans and rice at home. But what if you could identify ways to save more, spend better, even track your debt payoff goals all from your phone? You can. And you can do it the Frugal Friends way with our new mobile optimized spending planner. It's beautiful. It's simple. It does math. It's easy to navigate from your phone. It's inexpensive. You can save money, track money, spend money, get good at money. frugalfriendspodcast.com/planner.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
Yes, nothing more to say.
For a few more days, I'll give you this. For a few days, at the end of, this is a Memorial Day sale at this point, May 50. We'll get you an additional 50% off that planner.
Jen's feeling generous.
We're not advertising that everywhere. We are really only advertising it on the podcast. So you are special. This isn't something that we're just doing for everyone. I want you to know that.
May 50.
You're special.
50% off.
Do it. Try it. See what happens.
Save money.
All right. So we are in our Save Money on Groceries era, and we are doing lots of episodes. Our next episode is about saving money on meat. So we encourage you to listen to both, whether you are plant-based or carnivore. We've got something for you. We want you to get healthy food, nourish your body, and not be hangry. and not go broke doing it. And so that's what this episode was all about, because sometimes plant-based living, going vegan, all of that stuff can be associated with privilege and high prices. And Toni is such an accessible food blogger, Instagrammer, plant-based recipe creator. We love her, and we know you will too, because our listeners several years ago loved her.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Toni, thank you so much for joining us on the Frugal Friends podcast. This is going to be a really fun episode, I think.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much. I love saving money. And so your podcast is like my jam.
Yes.
We love to hear that from our guests.
We love jams.
Butter us up. Definitely. Jam us up.
Yes.
All right. So you are an expert on going plant-based on a budget. So our first question for you is, what's the biggest misconception about going plant-based?
The biggest misconception about going plant-based for me, and from what I hear often, is that people believe it has to happen overnight and it has to be all or nothing. And for me, it took 6 years to become plant-based. I gradually and very slowly moved away from the foods that I was very familiar with and very comfortable eating. And I still feel as plant-based as the next person. It just took me a little bit longer. And I also made sure that I set myself up for success long term. And I know that doing something before you're completely comfortable can set you up for failure. You can think, oh, well, I messed up, tried it, didn't work for me, instead of continuing on little by little by little by little. And I also feel like that's about money saving too. That can be applied to so many different things.
That's such a good point. The familiarity aspect that can be such a barrier for many of us. It might not be that, oh, I would never like it or I couldn't sustain on that. It just might be, I'm not familiar with it. We kind of stick to the things that we know. But oftentimes when we're willing to branch out, try new things step by step, we learn more about ourselves and we might be open to things we didn't think we were open to. So I love that point about it. I think applies to a lot of different aspects of life too, not just our diets.
So true. It reminds me of the very first time I went to a vegetarian restaurant. A friend who was vegetarian brought me and said, order anything you want. And I looked at the menu, didn't know of any of the things on there. And I was like, yeah, I'll have the white rice. And I literally only ordered white rice because I didn't know anything on there. And for me, becoming plant-based, what really opened my world and my palate up to all of these different international cuisines and different types of ingredients, because I didn't have a lot of courage to venture out before that.
Yeah. It also has this element of like the all or nothingness that we're so used to. It's either I'm all plant-based or I'm all nothing. Well, all not plant-based, you know?
I eat everything. Yeah.
It's that identity thing. And I think your journey to like over 6 years to slowly become fully plant-based, like gives permission to a lot of people. Like I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but I eat like probably 2 or 3 plant-based meals a week. So that doesn't make, you wouldn't think like I don't identify as that anymore, but it doesn't mean I can't incorporate it into my life.
Exactly. And in fact, I've surveyed my audience, and about 65% of people who are part of my community eat everything, but want to incorporate more plant-based dishes. They realize that it's healthier for you to have very vegetable heavy, fruit heavy meals in your life and want that for their families.
Could we take a moment just to define some of these different words? I know that like we use vegetarian or plant-based, but I know that there's differences between all of these things and some overlap as well. When you talk plant-based, Toni, what does that primarily mean for you? Or maybe what's the spectrum that you've seen?
This is a really, really heated subject for many, but for me, it's not. You can really, if I don't ever judge anybody. So if you want to call yourself vegetarian like I did and pick the pepperoni off of your pepperoni pizza and just not eat that part, like you do you. That's how I started. And so vegetarian is not eating meat. And there are some ingredients that other vegetarians don't eat as well, but they tend to eat eggs and cheese and other dairy products. And then there's vegan. Vegans often are a little bit more on the ethical side, but there are other vegans who are not, and they just want to eat less animal products or no animal products. But that tends to be more of a lifestyle. So no leather, no fur. They try to buy cruelty-free products, not tested on animals. And so it's more of a lifestyle. And then plant-based, this is the one that's a little bit tricky. I know people who are plant-based and are diehard plant-based, but they still eat meat sometimes. There are people who are plant-based who they believe that they don't eat oil. I believe oil came from plants, and I use plant-based synonymous to vegan. So there's like a whole spectrum of just the word plant-based. And I feel like if you want to eat more plants and you feel comfortable labeling yourself plant-based, you do you.
That's amazing. If we just
that.
want to stick to the basics of plant-based, meaning plants, then that's great.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I eat food that was made from plants, and that is a very, very vast range of food.
Yeah. So for someone hearing this and realizing, great, I can intersect with this concept, this way of eating and living on a variety of ways, what would you say is the easiest way for someone to get started if they're also considering their budget?
I know that Jen has a lot of thoughts about this with meal planning, because that's always where I start. I feel like having a plan with saving money, period, is going to get you far, and really taking stock of what's in your pantry so that you're not buying ingredients that you don't need, and not finding recipes that are online that require a whole new list of ingredients that you have to spend money on and maybe don't go together. So you can't use the celery that you have left over in your soup, because now you're making a pasta, and pasta doesn't have that celery. So being a little bit thoughtful and smart about your planning, and then using that planning at the grocery store, because the grocery store is like a very hard place to navigate when you're on a budget.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, the marketing is so fantastic. They've got colors and beautiful signage. And what we don't know as consumers often is that there is a lot of paid placement at the grocery store. So when you go in and you see this big like sale sign, tomato sauce is $1, you're thinking, oh, great, I needed tomato sauce. But often that's not the cheapest. And it's better for you to avoid that intro section and then also the end caps and go straight to the aisle, look for your tomato sauce. Don't even look just in your line of sight. Look all the way around, because that could be paid placement too. And look for the cheapest by price per ounce. So often that's private label, but still do your diligence and make sure that's the cheapest. And there are so many hacks like that when you're at the grocery store, just shopping smartly, making sure that you've eaten before you've gone so that you don't purchase impulsively. Make sure you have a plan so that you're not randomly grabbing ingredients because they're on sale or because they look good or because you just want to try them, and stick to the plan.
Yeah, it seems like such a misconception that going plant-based would be more expensive, when the reality is that meat is what usually costs us a lot of money. Although I know, even for myself, if we're starting to talk about cutting dairy, then there's a lot of other alternatives. And sometimes I see that those alternatives to whatever recipes are going to call for that might have dairy in it, the alternatives might be more more expensive. And so I'm curious your thoughts on how to begin. Like if someone were at that end of the spectrum with, I also want to cut out like the dairy and the cheeses and the eggs and all of that, and yet trying to find some reasonable alternatives, how might they go about, planning for that well and wisely within their money?
I've found that sticking to plants, like whole foods, is going to be the cheapest option. And you can still have a very delicious and familiar experience with tastes and textures with your seasonings. And one thing that I go back to all the time, because I come from a family of meat lovers and I don't eat meat, but I've also been on a budget for my whole adult life. I lived under the poverty line until maybe in the past 4 years. And so I was on a tight budget. And one meal that I kept going back to are lentil tacos. Lentil tacos are my favorite. You use all the same thing. You wouldn't put cheese on it, but it's still delicious. And you would cook the lentils instead of the beef, and you'd flavor them the same. You'd use I use a taco seasoning packet, but if you use if you make your own blend, that's fine too, with some onion, lettuce, tomato, and corn tortillas. Oh my gosh, delicious. My meat loving family loves it. So it doesn't have to be a sacrifice. And also, if you give food a try without the alternatives, because those can get pricey, you'll find that with the right seasonings, it's so filled with flavor and it's healthier for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're all about values-based budgeting and spending anyway. So if this is a decision that we want to make with the way that we're feeding ourselves and interacting with the world, then we can find room to do that and cut in other places as well. But also it's like anything else, like going minimal or you name it, where there's a way to do it expensive and there's a way to do it within our means. And both can be really amazing and really great and really tasty. I find that people who like are primarily plant-based eat that way. They make incredible food. I think maybe because like there's more time and not a ton of extra time and effort, but like you care more about like the main, if the main dish is the veggie.
Jill. Yeah. We just actually use spices.
Whereas like if you're cooking meat all the time, I feel like you don't have to do that, but then you never get really good at cooking.
Yeah.
That's so true. When I first started my cooking journey, did not know how to mix the different spices and blend different ingredients. And I grew up, I had two phases of my life. I was brought into this world by teenage parents, but my dad went into the Navy full time right after he found out that I was going to be born. And I lived with my grandparents during that time. They were retired and they both were very interested in food. My grandpa was a Japanese gardener here in the Central Valley and Central Valley of California. And my grandma was a Mexican woman who took his food and made us delicious meals from scratch. And so they were very rich in plants and fresh foods. But then I went and moved in with my dad and we ate like bachelors. So I moved in with him when I was 11 years old and I loved hamburger helper. I loved hot dogs with chili. I loved top ramen, mac and cheese, you name it. We ate like bachelors. That's just how it went. Yes. And so I didn't develop the cooking skills because I was too young when I was living with my grandma, and I relied heavily on packaged foods. And so going into learning how to cook vegetarian and then plant-based later on, I had to experiment. And what I did was I would go to the library and check out books, and I would invite a few friends over for, we called it Womanly Wednesdays, and we would watch a rom-com and make food together where we all brought different ingredients because we were all very budget conscious and trying to save money and didn't have a lot of money. So we would cook together and make these huge meals where maybe it would be like a big pot of vegetable soup with a loaf of bread and a salad. And everybody brought certain ingredients, and we shared the cost, shared the food, and also had meaningful time together. So it was a really beautiful experience, but it allowed me to play with things in recipes, like ingredients and recipes that may be too expensive. So if kale was called for, but spinach was what I had on hand already, I would say, hope this works and give it a try. And so that's really how it happened.
That's what I do all the time.
Yes. And in Plant-Based on a Budget, Quick and Easy, my new cookbook, I actually have lines in every recipe that just say my tips. And they're for the reader to customize each of the recipes based on their own preference, because that's how I cook. I take something as a guide and I change it up based on my family's preferences, based on what I have on hand. And I'll say things like, well, that didn't work. Try to swap this out. Or it did work.
Yes.
I love the tip of doing this with a community, exploring something, especially going back to what you said at the beginning about familiarity being a barrier sometimes to trying new things or exploring a different way of life or eating. But then when we bring other people into it and we can do it together, you've got that element of familiarity. And then also just like sharing the cost together and having fun cooking together, probably learning new skills, trying new things. Like there's so much that I love about your Womanly Wednesdays. It doesn't have to be called that, but that's so amazing.
And there are a lot of other ways to do this too, like food sharing. I love food sharing. That is my love language. I want to feed you and I want to celebrate your birthday by making you a big cake. So that is how I express love. And there are a lot of ways to save money and time in the kitchen by using those practices, whether you're cooking together and making a big, giant batch of food and having your friends bring their Tupperware so that they can take them home for leftovers and you can have leftovers. Or another thing that I've done in the past is if I'm making a dish for dinner, maybe I'll ask my coworker to also make a double batch for dinner and we can swap the other one. So if I'm making 2 casseroles and you're making 2 casseroles that are both different, you can swap the next day so that you're not having to make 2 separate dishes by 2 separate recipe ingredients, yet you still share food and cut back on the labor and time in the kitchen.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We get a lot of our single listeners asking like, how do I meal plan and make like this full recipe and then I don't want to eat it for the next 5 days? What a great idea. And like just emphasizing further the value of community and doing this thing in community to be able to like, hey, I'm just going to cut it in half and then we can like swap. Like,
yes. I also have a tip for the single listener and maybe the single listener who's an introvert and doesn't have or maybe want a big community. So I actually have had that experience 100 million times where I've made a big pot and then I hated it 5 days later. And one thing that I've really loved doing, and I include some notes on this in my book too, are if I make a big batch of chili or soup, I'll take split pea soup, for example. I will make it very plain the first day. It'll be very plain. And then the next day, I will take a ladle and I'll spice it differently with nutritional yeast. And now it's got a cheesy flavor. The next day, I'll take another ladle and I'll put some hickory smoke in there. And it's going to have a smoky flavor now. The next day, I'll take another ladle and I'll put lemon juice and some sriracha and maybe some pepper. And now it's got a tangy, spicy taste. And so you can put in the effort, make a pretty plain dish, and change up the flavors every day so that you really have a slightly different experience and not hate it a week later.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you make a bunch and you put some in the freezer, which is still a really great tip. We love the freezer, but you're blowing my mind right now. I'm taking it to the next level.
I think you've just done you have beautifully emphasized how eating more plant-based does not have to be more expensive, that there are tons of ways that it can save you money. I feel like in the times where I've seen people spend a lot on it, it's like the times where they're trying to replace like product for product. So like doing the plant-based pizza, buying the ready-made frozen one. It's like obviously going to be more expensive. But also I think I have been guilty of this in my early days of doing like procrasti-spending. So like instead of
Did you come up with that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, Jen.
And it was inspired by a friend of mine who like wanted to get back into running, and so he bought new running shoes, new running shirts, shorts, everything, and then never got back into running. But he thought he was doing something because he was spending money on the thing. And that is the same with like going vegan or vegetarian is, okay, I'm going to buy all of these foods that are vegan and vegetarian and totally do an overhaul of my kitchen and get ready. And then never follow through. But they feel like they've done something because they've spent money on it. And I have done this before. And that's where we find ourselves thinking, oh, this is too expensive. But the reality is that in going small and doing these just small common sense things, like, oh, it saves you so much money.
I love what you just said because it reminds me of a book that I read quite some time ago called Born to Run. And it was pretty much the same thing. Stop buying fitness gear. Get into running first. Yeah. Try it out. See if you like it. And then maybe 50 miles, 100 miles after of running later, get new shoes. First, then put in another 50 miles or 100 miles, then get new pants. Like it doesn't have to come before the actual doing of the thing. And so that's such a good comparison.
Yeah. Try the lentils, try the black beans before the tempeh and the tofu and the seitan. Yeah. Start small and not all at the same time. Like one plant-based meal.
Also, start and then keep trying because I hated brown rice. I had never had brown rice before, and I did not like it till like the 10th try. So sometimes you have to try it like 10 times, and then you might like it.
They do say that. I think the research, I'm using air quotes, is you have to try something 11 times before you acquire a taste for it if it's a new thing.
Also, it takes you like 10 times to figure out how to make brown rice, I think. Like 10 times of making it to start making it right. I make it like pasta now. So I'll just put a lot of water in and then drain it at the end. Then you never run out of water. You never worry about it being too dry.
Wow.
So that's my brown rice.
Okay. Wow. This message is brought to you by Apple Card.
Whoa, I just found out you can earn up to 3% daily cash back on everyday purchases made with Apple Card.
Yeah, you can earn unlimited daily cash back with Apple Card on every purchase. No matter where you check out with Apple Pay, you always get daily cash.
The possibilities are endless.
What's better is that daily cash can automatically grow when you open a high-yield savings account through Apple Card.
That's like endless. Plus one.
Visit apple.co/card calculator today and discover just how much daily cash you can earn.
Subject to credit approval, savings available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings in Apple Card by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms and more at applecard.com.
Looking to save even more money on your phone bill? How does free sound? Helium Mobile is offering the first free phone plan. That's right, free phone service. Seriously, no bill, no contract, just free.
It's not just some limited time deal. You get nationwide 5G coverage with 3 gigabytes of data, 300 texts, and 100 minutes of calls. If you need more data, you can upgrade to their other plans. Plus, you're supporting a community-built network that's growing every day to keep you seamlessly connected wherever you go.
When we first heard about Helium Mobile, we couldn't wait to share it with all our Frugal listeners who are looking to budget smarter when it comes to everyday necessities without sacrificing quality.
So if you're in the market to cut that monthly phone bill, like really cut it, Helium Mobile is where it's at. Download the Helium Mobile app today and use the code FRUGAL to get your free plan today.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12 powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the podcast Betrayal. Police Lieutenant Joel Kern used his badge to fool everyone, most of all, his wife, Caroline.
He texted, "I've ruined our lives. You're going to want to divorce me."
Caroline's husband was living another life behind the scenes. He betrayed his oath to his family and to his community.
She said you left bruises, pulled her hair, that type of thing.
No.
How far would Joel go to cover up what he'd done?
You're unable to keep track of all your lies, and quite frankly, I question how many other women may bring forward allegations in the future.
This season of Betrayal investigates one officer's decades of deception, lies that left those closest to him questioning everything they thought they knew. Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So let's talk a little bit about the time involved with plant-based, because especially if we're following these tips for the less expensive foods that are not the prepackaged, that are not like necessarily the pre-prepared, like how can we cut the time cost of going plant-based? Or do you even find that it costs more time?
It can. When I started plant-based on a budget, I had very little money. I was negative a lot of money. And then the cash I had in my life was very little. And so I made a lot of the food that I ate from scratch. I made my bread. I made my pasta sauces. And I really, if I wanted to eat that way, because I had more time at that point in my life than I had money, I made it work. But now I have more disposable income than I do time. I feel like I'm super strapped for time, and I splurge now on a can of beans instead of making my beans from scratch. Not 100% of the time, but that's a good example of what I would splurge on now, even though it's so much more economical to make them yourself, and they taste better. So I will say you can spend a lot of time, but some of the ways to avoid that are thinking simply. It doesn't have to be an elaborate meal. You can make maybe a pot of brown rice for the week and throw things together like a hummus wrap or a burrito with a can of beans and your rice and some tomatoes and some lettuce and salsa. And that's your lunch for the week. Or put some hummus and vegetables. So that's something that's quick and easy. Pasta with frozen veggies, a can of cannellini beans, and red sauce. Also very quick, easy, familiar. It doesn't take more than 15 minutes to throw any of those meals together. So that's when I am on the go. I tend to, or trying to get out of the kitchen as quickly as possible. Those are the meals that I rely on. But the style of eating that I do at home the most is cooking a legume and a grain, and then mix and matching those throughout the week. So I'll throw them in a soup with veggies. I'll throw them in a burrito. I'll do some fried rice with some brown rice and some vegetables. And I use tofu, I use beans, I use lentils, I use split peas, I use different types of lentils, red, brown, green. So there are a lot of protein sources that are very inexpensive, and you can play with those to decide which ones you like better. But I use one of those, a grain, and then either a store-bought sauce or a sauce that I make, plus some vegetables, and I throw them all together and mix and match them throughout the week. That's my style of eating, but there are a lot of others. You can do the one pot thing that I mentioned earlier with the soup or a chili and change it up. You can do the freezer-friendly meals that you mentioned earlier, and there's a way of meal prepping for everybody.
Again, it sounds like a spectrum of however you want to intersect. You can find a way that doesn't take a lot of time, and you can find a way that takes a ton of time. And I also like how you're giving yourself permission to trade off time and money. Sometimes we don't have a surplus of both. Sometimes we have a surplus of neither. but sometimes you've got more than one than the other. And so figuring out what kind of trade-off works for us. Maybe we've got a little bit more money than time, so I'm willing to pay for convenience, or I've got more time than money, so I'm going to do a lot of the things myself. And that's just a really helpful kind of foundational concept here.
I love that you said that, because it also puts your head into thinking what actually costs more. And if you value your time at a certain amount, and then you look at the thing, we'll say beans or pizza dough is $2 at Trader Joe's, and I can put together 2 personal pizzas with that, versus it will take me about an hour to make pizza dough if I do it from scratch and I let it rest. What am I valuing my time at? And making those decisions based on what's going to actually cost you more.
Yeah. Speaking of a spectrum and making decisions, I resonated a lot with you when you were describing like growing up and the difference between being with your grandparents and then being with your dad, and kind of what the eating landscape looked like. And I think you're describing a lot of people's households now, when you've got maybe one spouse who wants to eat one way and another or partner who wants to eat a different way. And I can kind of relate just personally with the way that my husband enjoys eating. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I am down for like a good mac and cheese. But there are times when I'll go a little bit more healthy, plant-based, and sometimes he's on board, sometimes he's not. So like for someone like me or anyone else who can relate to that situation, do you have any advice for maybe one person wants to go plant-based, but the partner loves meat or loves bachelor eating? They just can't get away from their ramen and hot dogs. I do like hot dogs too, though.
I have a different scenario in my house where even though I eat pretty healthy-ish, my husband eats super ultra healthy and doesn't use oil and doesn't like salt and all the things I think are tasty. And so the way I get around that is I make a way that I think you can do this if your partner wants to eat meat or cheese, is make a meal that is pretty plain again. And then I take we'll say pasta and sauce. And in mine, I can really flavor it up with what I want. I can saute my own veggies if I want. But in his, I've used the same pasta and the same sauce, and he can be responsible for what goes in that. I can put some vegan cheese if I wanted that. I can put in, you name it, whatever he doesn't like. That's what I can do. I hate mushrooms. I know I'm the worst vegetarian, but in his, he loads his up with mushrooms. He'll put nutritional yeast for that cheesy flavor. And I don't want that pasta. So you can make a same base and then take it and create your own preferences.
Yeah.
Using that base.
Negotiation station. I love that your tip isn't here's just how to manipulate them into your way of thinking and doing, but here's a way that you both can get what you want and need and value, and there's space for that.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have been vegan for 16 years now, and if there's one thing I've learned is that you cannot force anyone to do anything. You can only be kind and loving and hope that they will support you and accommodate you. And I have found that approach. My friends want to make sure that I'm included. So often they'll look for a vegetarian restaurant, or they'll make mostly everything, all of the sides at Thanksgiving vegan, except the protein on the table, so that I can enjoy all of them. So that has been my experience. And I've tried a lot of different approaches. That's the one that works. It's really hard to try to push someone into something that they don't want to do and they can resent you. They could make life harder for you. But if you just say, this is what I'm doing. If you want to change yours up, I'll give you the meal before I dress mine in the way that I want to.
Yeah, we had a similar experience because I was a vegetarian when I met my husband. And for the first, I guess, 5-6 years of our relationship, until I got pregnant and I craved a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. And and that was it. And I would cook only vegetarian, and he never stopped eating meat. Like, he would eat it if he went out somewhere, but I wouldn't buy it. If it was in the house, he bought it, or it was leftovers. And he was I'm very lucky in that he was very, okay with that happening. He's like, I wouldn't eat healthy on my own. So this is kind of like the only way I would eat healthy. And sometimes he says he misses it. And then other times he says, I'm glad you cook meat. So I don't know. But I do like cook half like vegan or vegetarian meals every week. So, but yeah, I think really, if he wanted meat, he was on his own. And it's not like I was like, oh, meat can't be in my house. But yeah, I wasn't going to cook it.
That's how my best friend from childhood, she told her husband, this is what I'm making. And if you want to do your meat, if you want to cook your chicken, you can do that and add it to the meal that I make if you really want to. And he was gung-ho about it for like 5 seconds and then realized how much effort it was to put in the time to one. He bought this like big giant Costco pack of chicken, and he was like, I'm never going to eat this if you're not eating it. It's taking up so much space. So he was thinking, gosh, I wish I didn't buy that big thing because now I don't want to do it. He did the runner thing. He bought the product before he realized he did not want to cook.
Before he gave it a chance. Yep. Procrastinating.
Do you know what? We always give a chance, and it hits all ends of the spectrum.
Never procrastinate this one.
The bill of the week.
Right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Toni, every week we invite our listeners and our guests to share with us a bill that they love, hate, lost, gained, whatever. It's vague for a reason. A person named Bill. Toni, we would love to hear yours.
I very, very rarely go to Starbucks, but I went there and someone before me paid for my bill. And I knew that was a thing that happens to other people. And it's like something you hear exists, but not to me. And I almost hugged that person. We weren't like post-COVID times, and people were a little bit weird about hugging. Like, stay away from me. I couldn't believe it. It was so nice. And it made me want to be in a place where I could do that too.
Aw, that's so
cool.
Sweet.
What did you end up getting?
I got a hot chocolate with soy milk.
Yum.
I don't know why that sounds like so adorable to me. I don't think I've heard like a grown adult talk about getting hot chocolate in so long, and it's so endearing.
Yes.
It was delicious.
Yes.
I bet.
And especially with soy milk, because I still order soy milk at Starbucks. I know it's like not in anymore, but
it's not,
I know.
It's not on
I know.
trend anymore.
It's not. I'm old school about it too. I like Frugal milk.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's
well, I'm not a
great.
big Starbucks fan, so that'd be the only way to get me there is if someone else bought mine. So I'm here for it. I'm here for that bill, just in a different perspective. Oh man, if anyone listening has a bill where someone else maybe paid for you, bought you your hot
Maybe
chocolate,
your barista's name
or
was
your
Bill.
chocolate milk, or your barista's name is Bill. You know we're here for the people named Bill. We don't get enough of them. Visit frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. Be a bill or leave a bill.
The choice is yours.
Looking to save even more money on your phone bill? How does free sound? Helium Mobile is offering the first free phone plan. That's right, free phone service. Seriously, no bill, no contract, just free.
It's not just some limited time deal. You get nationwide 5G coverage with 3 gigabytes of data, 300 texts, and 100 minutes of calls. If you need more data, you can upgrade to their other plans. Plus, you're supporting a community-built network that's growing every day to keep you seamlessly connected wherever you go.
When we first heard about Helium Mobile, we couldn't wait to share it with all our Frugal listeners who are looking to budget smarter when it comes to everyday necessities without sacrificing quality.
So if you're in the market to cut that monthly phone bill, like really cut it, Helium Mobile is where it's at. Download the Helium Mobile app today and use the code FRUGAL to get your free plan today.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12-powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
I'm Andrea Gunning, host of the podcast Betrayal. Police Lieutenant Joel Kern used his badge to fool everyone, most of all, his wife, Caroline.
He texted, "I've ruined our lives. You're going to want to divorce me."
Caroline's husband was living another life behind the scenes. He betrayed his oath to his family and to his community.
She said you left bruises, pulled her hair, that type of thing.
No.
How far would Joel go to cover up what he'd done?
You're unable to keep track of all your lies, and quite frankly, I question how many other women may bring forward allegations in the future.
This season of Betrayal investigates one officer's decades of deception. Lies that left those closest to him questioning everything they thought they knew. Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are there any pictures of you online? I'm not just talking about Google. I'm talking anywhere.
Clearview scrapes together images from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from Venmo accounts.
That database is now being used by police departments all across the country to match criminal suspect photos. And sometimes it makes mistakes.
So in this one case, 2 of the search results that I think were in the top 10 of the search results were Michael Jordan, just a picture of Michael Jordan.
But cops are still using it to make arrests.
Police, they are trusting this software to lead them to the right suspect. But you're not even being told that it was used, let alone given any of the details about how it works.
This is not Minority Report. This is happening right now. People are getting arrested and doing actual time in jail after being picked out by a computer. I'm Dexter Thomas, host of Kill Switch, where every Wednesday we explain the right now of living in the future. You can turn off the computer, but do not let the computer turn you off. Listen to Kill Switch in the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now it's time for the lightning round.
Pew. Pew pew. All right. For this week's lightning round, we will all take turns answering this question.
Toni already answered this like a ton of times, but I'm still excited for her answer.
What's your favorite inexpensive plant-based meal to make? Toni?
This is the vulnerability round.
This is her vulnerability round. It gets a little less vulnerable when we have a guest, but
I love soup. Soup is so comforting to me, and some people say that they love soup in soup season, but here in Sacramento it gets like 110 degrees and I'm still eating soup.
Yes.
I know. I have a soup season And so there's only a few months a year that I can eat soup.
The closest I get to eating soup is chili. But then I got to have it with rice or something.
But I do
Not
love
a
a
huge
soup.
person.
I love a soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your go-to right now?
Right now, I've been loving a super vegetable heavy, but with a clear broth. And I do little tofu cubes so that I can feel like it's chicken noodle like. And I'll put in a pasta or something like that to make it hearty, or white rice. Like a chicken and rice type soup with white rice. That's delicious too.
I love the word hearty. Like if you tack on the term hearty to any meal, I am here for it.
Yes. I love a minestrone. Minestrone, however you say it, with a little shell pasta and veggies. Yes.
What about you, Jen?
Okay, so I don't want to toot my own horn.
Please don't, because that sounds gross.
But I feel like I have perfected 2 things in the kitchen, and only 2 things. I am not a chef. I have perfected the kale salad.
Yeah, you have.
So in salad season, I am making delicious kale salad.
Yeah, you have.
And I will do this kind of mayonnaise based dressing. I make my own dressings, and you can use like a plant-based mayonnaise with oh my gosh, it's just, you use the mayonnaise instead of oil, and then like an apple cider vinegar and other stuff, and strawberries and walnuts.
Yum.
Sounds delicious.
Oh yes.
My stomach literally just grumbled. I wish I had my I really grumbled. You might go back and listen to it. You might hear it.
A hearty kale salad.
And it's so much better the next day. You just got to massage it. Count to 60, massage your kale. Or if it's not salad season, I have also perfected crispy tofu, which is hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
So I will put tofu in everything, and even my husband loves it.
Even him?
Yes. So I will mix it. The secret is, and I got this from, I think, Cookie and Kate. The secret is a tablespoon of soy, a tablespoon of oil, and a tablespoon of cornstarch. Just make up that slurry, toss your cubes in, bake.
Yum.
That is
slurry.
Slurry. Yeah, cornstarch slurry.
I like that word too.
Yes. You can use like liquid aminos too if you're not on gluten, but like yes, like that is everything. I'll put it in the kale salad. The other day,
she's not with us anymore. Her mind is on food.
I made
right
a warm
now.
kale salad with the tofu, and oh my gosh, I put I roasted some butternut squash. It had some quinoa, and some almonds. I think, maybe pepitas. I don't know.
Wow.
Oh gosh. Yes. And so it was warm when I served it, and then next day for leftovers, it was a cold kale salad. So it was like
that's Toni's thing. It's right out of Toni's book.
Yeah. But my husband did call me the next day and was like, "Should I microwave this? It feels weird to microwave a salad." I'm like, "No, I mean, it should feel weird."
No,
you shouldn't.
No, you want to know what Jen's real response was? Because she was at my house and I heard her on the phone with her husband. She's like, "These are the kinds of decisions you need to be able to make on your own."
I was joking.
I'm like, what was happening? She's like, "Yeah, that was Travis." I'm like, "What?"
I was joking.
Okay, I couldn't tell. I don't know if you could tell.
I was just telling. I was like, dude, you gotta make these decisions for your life. You know, like you gotta know thyself.
Yes. Yep.
For me, it's a chickpea rice bowl with all sorts of other goodies into it. But I love what can happen with chickpeas with a variety of seasoning, baked. They get just a nice crisp to them. And then other veggies thrown into there, and that's fun for me.
Yeah, I did a chickpea and sweet potato curry last night.
I was just saying, ooh.
Oh, nice. I just made this recently, and then I saw you that night. We went like midnight bowling, and which was fun. And my husband was like, oh no, I'm really hungry. Why am I so hungry? I'm like, well, because normally we're not up at this time and your body's just now like expending energy. But also I did make just a vegetarian meal. He's like, I think it because there wasn't any meat in the dinner tonight. And then Jen's sitting there. She's like, no, it's because you didn't put enough protein in your meal. And that was fun. That little exchange.
That was a fun exchange we just recently had.
See, that's what happens, I think, sometimes, is there's like these ideas around what it means to be plant-based.
Yeah,
so you're not going to get enough food, but you can get enough food and all your nutrients. You just don't stay up till midnight bowling. That's the trick.
Really, when you said midnight, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, anybody's going to need a snack
animals.
at midnight. I know. They are. They
and
really
this
are.
one's pregnant, so
I know.
She was the real hero.
I spent all day conserving my energy for that outing. It was a special occasion. So, well, Toni, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell everyone where they can find more from you, find your book, etc.
Thank you so much for having me. And I loved our conversation. People can find me at plantbasedonabudget.com. My book is called Plant-Based on a Budget, Quick and Easy, and it's available anywhere you buy books and at plantbasedonabudgetcookbook.com. And I'm on Instagram at plantbasedonabudget.
Amazing. Just everywhere plant-based on a budget.
There you go.
So great.
Yes.
Easy.
Thanks for being with us, Toni.
Thank you. Thank you again.
I enjoyed talking to her. That was a fun one.
Yes. And I'm still into kale salads. I'm gonna bring it back. A good massaged kale is such a hearty green. It's so good, so filling. And with a crispy tofu, that's a good protein right there. I mean, I'll do it with other proteins, but I do that. Being vegetarian was a big reason we were able to spend so little on food when we paid off debt.
This was a good reminder of how much I love chickpeas. I have not made chickpeas in a long time, or like done something with them. But it's funny, just this week, I put them back in my meal plan. I'm going to make a chickpea, heart of palm, and beet salad.
Wow.
Yeah, because I have all of those cans in my pantry from the hurricane. I went a little nutso during the hurricane this past season.
Who didn't?
And just bought all kinds of random stuff that I'm like, oh, maybe this will feel elevated if we are without power for weeks on end. It didn't ever end up eating them, but now I just have like a can of pickled beets and hearts of palm and chickpeas. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Anyways, I'll probably talk about it in the Sunday reset. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you definitely need to be, because we give 6 recipes every week. We talk about our meal plans, the recipes we liked, so you can know they've been tested by the Frugal friends. So I'm going to end up talking about that in our Sunday reset.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much this time around as you did the first. And if you have listened to the show and enjoyed it, we would love if you would leave a rating and review on Spotify. If you've read our book, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke, we would also love if you would leave it a rating and review on Amazon. That's the place most people go to determine if a book is worth reading, even if you don't buy it from the platform, which we would encourage you to buy it from bookshop.org. Like Jennifer Carney left this Amazon review, 5 stars. An absolute gem of a book that's focused on spending. I loved this book so much. It's a breath of fresh air from other personal finance books. The focus is not on budgeting or baby steps, and instead is on understanding values and all the things that trigger spending. If you already have your budget, this book is the next step to think more about spending habits. It's worth coming back to reread and reference Jen and Jill's words. The writing is non-judgmental. One of the biggest takeaways, retail therapy can feel like one thing we can control when things are chaotic. Wow, that is a good takeaway. I love that was one of your biggest takeaways, because we very often think of a lack of self-discipline with spending as some kind of failure or lack of control, when really it is a small thing we can control when other bigger things are outside of our control. Yeah. So, way to go.
I appreciate how some people look at our book as like a great place to start, and other people find it to be helpful when they've already begun and kind of dig deeper. Like I do think we offer both to people wherever you're at, you can find something for you. So thanks, Jennifer, for that. And thank you all for listening. If you have not yet listened or rated this show, please do that wherever you're listening. If you've not yet read the book, feel free to do that. We would love to hear what stood out to you, what your biggest takeaway is, and for you to leave a rating and review of the book on Amazon, on Goodreads. That'd be so, so helpful.
Yes. Buywhatyoulovebook.com. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Siriani. So Memorial Day is coming up, right?
Yeah.
It is my kids' last week of school. Well, one of them, the other one's in daycare, and he gets to go through. But 2.5 more days.
Until summertime and the living's easy.
No.
Something tells me that's not going to be your experience.
Yeah, no.
All right, tell me all of your plans, hopes, and dreams for you and Kai. Fun boy summer.
Fun boy summer. Okay. Coined. I am definitely going to go to the gym more because I'm going to be out of the office much more. So I actually switched gym memberships to one that has a daycare. So I'll be able to have Kai there and move my body a little bit more, which will feel better in this time of like heightened stress and anxiety for me. And getting outside in the mornings, just kind of having an excuse to be lazy and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
So probably clean the house more, do laundry more consistently.
What if you fall in love with Fun Boy Summer?
No. I don't foresee
You're just
that
gonna
happening.
look for the silver linings.
Yes. I'm looking at the silver lining, but I will miss the office and I will look forward to getting back to the office. I already have a plan to put Kai, to do the YMCA thing, the before school. I'm going to get him in that next year. It doesn't cost a lot.
What does that mean?
So I could drop him off earlier. So I have like a full work day instead of
Does he get bused from the YMCA to school?
No, it's at his school.
Oh, the YMCA posts up at school?
Yeah, at schools. Yeah. They didn't have that at your schools, or your mom just was able to take you to and from school like a regular mom.
I don't remember my childhood.
Oh,
I don't know. I was homeschooled for a year. I went to private school for like a year. I went to public school for a year. I don't remember what happened.
All right. Oh, my mom had a regular job, so she had to drop me off at the YMCA in the cafeteria in the morning so she could get to work at 9. And then I had to go there after school too.
Yeah, I think our school had a program in the morning. I don't think it was run by the Y though. It was just the teachers. Some teachers were there early and that was that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
We'll see how Fun Boy Summer goes.
Well, hold on though. These are all like what you're going to do. Would Kai have an answer to what he's looking forward to this summer?
He's looking forward to whatever I am looking forward to.
Oh, laundry, working out. Perfect.
Yep. Don't ask him, but that is his answer.
Fun Boy Summer starts in 2 days.
Woo.
You want the best for your child. K-12 can help them gain the skills they need to reach their full potential while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12 powered schools are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Their state-certified teachers make online learning interactive and engaging, allowing your child to learn at their pace from the safety of home. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
In a world of economic uncertainty and workplace transformation, learn to lead by example from visionary C-suite executives like Shannon Schuyler of PwC and Will Pearson of iHeartMedia.
The good teacher explains, the great teacher inspires.
Don't always leave your team to do the work. That's been the most important part of how to lead by example.
Listen to Leading by Example, Executives Making an Impact on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are there any pictures of you online? Then you could already be in a massive police database without even knowing it.
Clearview scrapes together images from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from Venmo accounts.
I'm Dexter Thomas, host of Kill Switch, a podcast about how living in the future is affecting us right now.
Police, they are trusting this software with this magical ability to lead them to the right suspect.
In this episode, we dive into how cops are using AI and facial recognition and sometimes getting it wrong and putting innocent people behind bars.
So if your accuser is this algorithm, but you're not even being told that it was used, let alone given any of the details about how it works.
Listen to Kill Switch on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Clayton English.
I'm Greg Glott.
And this is season 2 of the War on Drugs podcast.
Yes, sir. Last year, a lot of the problems of the drug war. This year, a lot of the biggest names in music and sports.
It's kind of star-studded a little bit, man.
We met them at their homes. We met them at their recording studios. Stories matter, and it brings a face to them.
It makes it real.
It really does. It makes it real.
Listen to new episodes of the War on Drugs podcast season 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to an iHeart podcast.